Trust takes years to build, but seconds to destroy. For 20 years, Aaron Blake shared everything with his business partner Victor, every deal, every risk, every victory. One quiet afternoon in his Chicago office, Aaron's 10-year-old niece Lily tugged his sleeve. "Uncle Aaron," she whispered, "I saw your partner at the mall yesterday. He was with another woman and kids. He told them he'd be home for dinner." Aaron smiled, thinking she must be confused. But Lily shook her head. He called them his real family. The words hit Aaron like cold water. Victor had no wife, no children, or so Aaron believed. What else had his trusted partner been hiding all these years? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The mahogany desk that separated Aaron Blake from the world had witnessed 20 years of handshakes, contracts, and dreams made real. As Lily's pink hair ribbon fluttered to the carpet, forgotten in her haste to leave his office, Aaron found himself staring at the framed photograph on his desk, him and Victor at the grand opening of Blake and Cromwell Enterprises, both men grinning with the confidence of youth and ambition. It had been 2004 when they met at that business conference in Denver. Aaron remembered the mediocre coffee, the uncomfortable chairs, and Victor Cromwell sharp-eyed, quick-witted, armed with spreadsheets and projections that made Aaron's ambitious plans seem suddenly achievable. Where Aaron saw possibilities, Victor saw profit margins. Where Aaron dreamed, Victor calculated. They were perfect complements, or so it had seemed. "You've got vision," Victor had said over bourbon that first night. But vision without financial discipline is just expensive. Daydreaming. He'd smiled then, that easy smile that would charm investors and clients for 2 decades. "Partner with me, and I'll make sure your dreams have a solid foundation." The foundation had been solid indeed. From their first cramped office above, dry cleaner's shop, to the current 42nd floor suite overlooking Lake Michigan, Blake and Cromwell had grown into an empire worth hundreds of millions. Real estate development, commercial properties, investment portfolios, they'd built it all together, brick by brick, deal by deal. Aaron picked up Lily's ribbon, a pink satin smooth between his fingers. His sister Sarah had dropped Lily off an hour ago, needing someone to watch her while she attended a doctor's appointment. The girl loved visiting her uncle's office, marveling at the view, spinning in his leather chair, drawing pictures on his legal pads. She was observant for her age, Sarah always said. Too observant sometimes. The intercom buzzed. "Mr. Blake?" "Mr. Cromwell is here for your 3 o'clock." Aaron glanced at his watch. Victor was never late. 20 years of partnership had established rhythms as predictable as the tide. Monday morning strategy sessions, Thursday lunch at Morton's, Friday afternoon golf when weather permitted. Victor lived for the business, had always claimed it was his only family. "No wife for me," Victor would say at company Christmas parties, raising his glass to the married couples. "Blake and Cromwell is my bride, and she's demanding enough." The employees loved him for it, his dedication, his accessibility, his willingness to work holidays when others went home to families. Margaret Chun, their senior accountant, often stayed late herself, and Victor would order Chinese food for the whole accounting department, making sure no one worked hungry. "Send him in," Aaron told his secretary, slipping Lily's ribbon into his desk drawer. Victor entered with his usual energy, though Aaron noticed, was he imagining it? A tightness around his partner's eyes. "Aaron, good day on the markets." Riverside project is up 2%. He settled into the chair across from Aaron's desk, the same chair he'd occupied for thousands of meetings. Sarah's kid was here earlier, saw her in the lobby. "Cute little thing, Lily. Yes, she was keeping me company." "Kids," Victor shook his head with a practiced smile. "Thank God I never had any." Can you imagine trying to run this place and raise children? Aaron had imagined it, actually. Had tried for years with his ex-wife before the marriage. Crumbled under the weight of 70-hour work weeks and broken promises. But Victor knew that story. They'd shared everything over the years, or so Aaron had believed. About the Singapore expansion, Victor continued, opening his portfolio. I've run the numbers again. If we leverage the Detroit properties. Aaron nodded, half listening as Victor laid out projections and possibilities. This was their dance, perfected over decades. But Lily's words echoed. He called them his real family. Children could be mistaken. They misunderstood adult conversations, created fantasies. Yet Lily wasn't given to tall tales. Sarah had raised her to value truth above all else, a response to their own father's lifetime of broken promises and convenient lies. As Victor talked, Aaron studied his partner's face. The same intelligent eyes, the same confident gestures. The wedding ring finger bear, as always. When had Victor gone to the mall? He claimed to despise shopping, ordered everything online, or had his assistant handle it. Which brings us to 32% growth potential over 18 months, Victor concluded. Aaron, you with me? Sorry, long day. The numbers look good. Victor leaned back, concern creasing his features. You all right? You seem distracted. For 20 years, they'd read each other like books. Victor probably knew Aaron's moods better than anyone alive. The care in his voice seemed genuine, the worry real. This was the man who'd stayed by Aaron's side through his divorce, his father's death, the lawsuit that nearly destroyed them in 2015. I'm fine. Just thinking about Sarah. She's been having some health issues. Anything serious? Tests, you know. How it is. Victor nodded sympathetically. Let me know if you need anything. If she needs a specialist, I know people. Of course he did. Victor always knew people. It was part of what made their partnership work. Aaron's vision and leadership, Victor's connections and financial acumen. Together, they employed over 300 people, managed properties across 6 states, held the financial futures of dozens of families in their hands. I should go, Victor stood, gathering his papers. Early dinner meeting with the Koreans. Want to join? Can't tonight. Promised Sarah I'd bring Lily home. Family first, Victor said easily. That's what I admire about you, Aaron. You remember what's important. After Victor left, Aaron sat alone in his office as the afternoon sun painted golden stripes across the carpet. He opened his desk drawer and stared at Lily's pink ribbon. Such a small thing to unravel 20 years of trust. But trust, once questioned, was like a cracked foundation. You could ignore it, paint over it, pretend it wasn't there. But eventually, the whole structure might come tumbling down. Aaron picked up his phone, then set it down. What would he say? Victor, my 10-year-old niece thinks she saw you with a family? It sounded absurd even in his head. Yet the doubt, once planted, had already begun to grow roots. Outside his window, Chicago sprawled endlessly, a city of secrets and hidden lives. How well did anyone really know anyone? 20 years of partnership, of shared dreams and mutual success. Was it possible Victor had built an entirely different life in the shadows of the one they'd created together? Aaron closed his eyes, made a decision. He would look into it, quietly, carefully. Not because he believed Lily children saw what they wanted to see, but because after 20 years, he owed it to himself to be certain. After all, trust was the foundation of everything. They built. And if that foundation was cracked, the partnership meeting dragged on longer than usual that Thursday morning. Aaron found himself watching Victor's hands as his partner gestured through quarterly projections. Those familiar hands that had signed 1,000 deals. Shaken hands. With everyone from senators to construction workers. No wedding ring, never had been. But hands could tell stories. And Aaron noticed for the first time a faint pale line on Victor's ring finger, as if something had rested there long enough to leave a ghost of its presence. "The Cleveland property is our strongest performer," Victor was saying, laser pointer dancing across the projection screen. "If we replicate this model in Columbus, what are your plans this weekend?" Aaron interrupted, surprising himself with the question. Victor's laser pointer wavered for just a moment. "Weekend?" "The usual. Golf on Saturday if it doesn't rain." "Why?" "Just wondering. We've been pushing hard lately. Maybe we should both take some real time off." "You know me," Victor laughed, but it sounded forced. All work and no play makes Victor a wealthy man. Margaret Shunn looked up from her notes. "Actually, Mr. Cromwell, didn't you request next Friday off? I have it in the calendar." Victor's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Did I? Must be a dentist appointment or something. You know how I am with personal scheduling, Margaret. Thank God you keep track." After the meeting disbanded, Aaron lingered in the conference room, staring out at the city below. The doubt was like a splinter now, small but impossible to ignore. He pulled out his phone and called Sarah. "How's my favorite brother?" His sister answered, sounding tired but cheerful. "Your only brother. How did the tests go?" "Fine. Just routine stuff. Thanks for watching Lily yesterday." "About that?" Aaron kept his voice casual. "She mentioned seeing Victor at the mall last weekend. Were you there? Woodfield?" "Yes, Saturday afternoon. I needed to return something at Nordstrom, and Lily wanted to visit the Disney store." "Why?" "Just curious. Did you see him too?" Sarah paused. "No, but I wasn't with Lily the whole time. She wandered off while I was in line. You know how she is. Found her by the fountain 20 minutes later, full of stories about people she'd seen. She has such an imagination." "What exactly did she tell you?" "Oh, the usual. She saw her teacher with a boyfriend, some kids from school. And yes, she mentioned Victor. Said he was with a woman and children. I told her she must be mistaken. Maybe it was someone who looked like him. But she seemed certain." "Aaron, what's this about?" "Lily was very specific, actually. Said she walked right up to him, and he seemed surprised. Told her he was shopping with friends. But you know how she gets these ideas?" "I know." "Thanks, Sarah. Give Lily my love." After hanging up, Aaron made a decision that would have seemed unthinkable even a week ago. He drove to Woodfield Mall that afternoon, telling his assistant he had an off-site meeting. The lie sat uncomfortably on his tongue. The mall security office was a cramped space behind the food court, smelling of burnt coffee and industrial disinfectant. The security chief, a heavy-set man named Dimitri, listened to Aaron's carefully crafted story about a potential identity theft issue involving his business partner. "Last Saturday afternoon, you said?" Dimitri pulled up files on his computer. "What time, approximately?" "Between 2 and 4. That narrows it down. We keep footage for 30 days. What's this person look like?" Aaron described Victor, feeling like a traitor with every word. Dimitri nodded, fingers flying across the keyboard. "I'll burn you a disk of the relevant footage. Might take an hour or so. Legal purposes only, you understand?" Aaron waited in his car, watching families stream in and out of the mall entrance. Normal people living normal lives. No secret agendas or hidden families. When had his life become a detective story? The disc Dimitri eventually handed him felt heavier than it should. Back in his home office that evening, Aaron stared at it for a long time before inserting it into his computer. The grainy footage showed the mall's main corridor, timestamps marking the lazy Saturday afternoon. Shoppers drifted past in accelerated motion. Then, at 2:47 p.m., Aaron's breath caught. Victor walked into frame, but he wasn't alone. A woman held, his arm attractive early 40s, laughing at something he'd said. 2 teenagers flanked them, a boy and girl, maybe 14 and 16. The boy had Victor's sharp jawline, the girl his distinctive way of tilting her head when amused. Aaron watched Victor guide them into a store, his hand resting protectively on the woman's lower back. It was such an intimate gesture, so natural and practiced. This wasn't a chance encounter with friends. This was a family dot at 3:15 p.m. The footage showed them emerging from the store, shopping bags in hand. Then Aaron saw her Lily, distinctive, in her bright yellow sundress, approaching the group. Even in the silent footage, he could see Victor's body language shift, stiffening as the child approached. A brief interaction, Lily's animated gestures, Victor's forced smile. The woman and teenagers stood back, puzzled. Then Lily skipped away, and Victor turned to his family with what looked like an explanation. Aaron rewound and watched, again and again. Each viewing made the truth more undeniable. The way Victor interacted with these people, the comfortable familiarity, the teenage boy's identical gesture when he laughed, these weren't friends or distant relatives. This was Victor's other life, captured in pixelated clarity. The implications crashed over Aaron in waves. The weekend trips Victor occasionally took for vendor meetings, the personal calls he always stepped out to take, the apartment he maintained for late nights at the office that Aaron had never actually visited. 20 years of small deceptions. That suddenly formed a larger pattern. But even as anger began to build, questions nagged at him. Why maintain such an elaborate deception? Victor earned millions. He could afford any lifestyle he chose. Why pretend to be a bachelor? What else was he hiding? Aaron ejected the disk and locked it in his safe. Tomorrow, he would need to decide what to do with this knowledge. Tonight, he poured himself 3 fingers of scotch and stood at his window, looking out at the glittering Chicago skyline. Somewhere in the city, Victor was living another life with another family. The partner Aaron thought he knew was a carefully constructed fiction. And if Victor could lie about something this fundamental, what else had been in performance? The pink ribbon still sat in Aaron's desk drawer at the office. Such a small thing to unravel such a massive deception. Tomorrow, he would have to face Victor again, sit across from him in meetings, pretend everything was normal, while knowing nothing would ever be normal again. Trust, Aaron reflected, was like a mirror. Once shattered, you could glue the pieces back together, but the cracks would always show. And some mirrors, once broken, revealed not reflections, but the hidden rooms behind them. Aaron arrived at the office at 5:47 a.m., 2 hours before anyone else would appear. The building felt different in the pre-dawn darkness, hollow, expectant, keeping its secrets close. His keycard beeped softly as he entered the executive suite. The sound too loud in the silence. Victor's office stood at the opposite end of the hall from his own, a mirror image in layout, but distinctly different in character. Where Aaron displayed family photos and civic awards, Victor had chosen abstract art and financial tombstones from their biggest deals. No personal touches, nothing that might hint at a life beyond these walls. Aaron stood before Victor's door, key in hand. In 20 years, he'd never violated this boundary. They respected each other's spaces, each other's privacy. But privacy and deception were different things entirely. The door opened silently on well-oiled hinges. Aaron moved quickly to Victor's desk, settling into his partner's chair. The leather still held a faint scent of Victor's cologne Tom Ford, expensive like everything else about his carefully curated image. The desk drawers were meticulously organized. Financial reports in one, stationery supplies in another. Nothing personal, nothing that didn't belong in any executive's office. Aaron was about to give up when his fingers found a slight catch in the bottom drawer's back panel. A hidden compartment, the kind of detail that spoke to deliberate concealment. Inside lay a second cell phone, powered off. Aaron's hands trembled slightly as he turned it on, watching the screen illuminate with a carrier he didn't recognize. The wallpaper showed the same woman from the mall footage, smiling on a beach somewhere tropical. No password protection, Victor's arrogance, or simple oversight. The text messages told a story of staggering duplicity. Kids game at 3. Don't be late this time. Cade, Dad, Mom says you promised to help with my college essays this weekend. Still, love you. Drive safe. Text when you land. Kay Aaron scrolled through months of mundane domestic exchanges, grocery lists, dinner plans, homework help, doctor's appointments. The infrastructure of a complete family life, time-stamped during hours when Victor claimed to be at the gym, meeting vendors, playing golf alone. The photos were worse than the messages. Victor at Christmas, wearing a Santa hat, surrounded by the teenagers opening presents. A professional family portrait in coordinating outfits. Victor teaching the boy to golf. The same stance, the same concentrated expression. Aaron knew so well. Birthday parties, graduations, family vacations, to places Victor had told Aaron he'd visited for business. In contacts, the woman was listed simply as Catherine. Catherine Winters, according to her email address. The teenagers were Emma and James. There were entries for Catherine's parents, labeled Mom and Dad Winters. An entire extended family network that existed in parallel to the life Aaron knew. A sound in the hallway made Aaron's heart race. He quickly photographed several screens with his own phone, then powered down the device and returned it to its hiding place. The drawer slid closed just as footsteps paused outside the door. Mr. Blake? Margaret Chawn's voice, surprised. I didn't expect anyone else this early. Aaron emerged from Victor's office, hoping his face didn't betray his racing pulse. Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd get a head start on the Singapore files. Victor mentioned he left them on his desk. Margaret's expression was unreadable in the dim hallway light. I see. I'm actually glad you're here. Could we speak privately? In your office? Once behind closed doors, Margaret sat forward in her chair. Her usual professional composure tinged with something else. Worry? Fear? I've been with this company 12 years, she began carefully. I've never questioned the partners' decisions or pried into matters that weren't my concern. But I have a fiduciary responsibility. And frankly, I'm concerned about some patterns I've noticed in the expense reports. Aaron kept his expression neutral. What kind of patterns? Margaret pulled out a folder she'd been clutching. Mr. Cromwell's expenses have certain irregularities. Nothing that would fail an audit on its surface, but troubling when you look at the whole picture. She spread several reports across Aaron's desk. Restaurant receipts for family-style places. Always for 4 people, during times he claimed to be entertaining single clients. Hotel charges in Oak Park. Why would he need a hotel 20 minutes from his apartment? Recurring payments to a property management company for an address that doesn't match any of our holdings. Aaron studied the documents, his mind racing. How long has this been going on? The patterns go back at least 5 years, possibly longer. That's as far back as I've checked. Margaret hesitated. There's more. Payments to a private school, St. Catherine's Academy. 2 tuitions paid through. The company has employee development programs, but I've cross-referenced our employee records. None of our staff have children at St. Catherine's. The pieces were falling into place with nauseating clarity. What's the total we're talking about? Difficult to say without a full forensic audit, but conservatively, over 200,000 in questionable expenses annually. Over 5 years, she didn't need to finish the calculation. Aaron leaned back, the weight of betrayal settling fully on his shoulders. It wasn't just the second family. It was that Victor had been stealing from their company, from their employees, to fund it. Margaret, I need you to compile everything. Every receipt, every pattern, every questionable transaction. But quietly. Can you do that? Already started, she admitted. I've been building a file for months, hoping I was wrong. Mr. Blake, What's really going on? Aaron met her steady gaze. Margaret had been with them since nearly the beginning. She'd earned her trust through years of meticulous work and unquestioned loyalty. I have reason to believe Victor has been living a double life, a second family he's kept hidden. Your findings suggest he's been funding it through the company. Margaret's face went pale, but she nodded slowly. That would explain the patterns. My God, the liability to the company, to our shareholders. I know. We need to handle this carefully. Document everything, but don't discuss it with anyone else yet. I need to understand the full scope before we take action. What about the authorities? This is embezzlement, fraud, one step at a time. First, we protect the company and our people. Then we deal with the rest. After Margaret left, Aaron sat, alone in his office as the city woke up around him. Through his window, he watched the early morning commuters hurrying to their own offices, their own deceptions, their own double lives. The second cell phone burned in his memory. Catherine, Emma, James, names that made Victor's betrayal human complicated. This wasn't just numbers on a spreadsheet or hidden bank accounts. This was a man who'd built an entirely separate existence, complete with children who called him Dad and a woman who texted him to drive safely. Aaron's own phone buzzed. A message from Victor. Running late. Client breakfast ran over. Start the 9 a.m. without me? Another lie. Or maybe, not maybe, he really was at breakfast. Aaron realized he had no way of knowing anymore what was truth and what was performance. Every interaction over 20 years was now suspect, every memory tainted by doubt. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts to a name he hadn't called in years. Ray Morrison, a private investigator who'd helped during Aaron's divorce, a former Chicago cop who knew how to find what people wanted hidden. Ray? It's Aaron Blake. I need your help. Been a while. What's the situation? I need you to investigate someone. Quietly, thoroughly. Financial records, property holdings, personal life, everything. Sound serious? Who's the target? Aaron closed his eyes, crossing a line he could never uncross. My business partner, Victor Cromwell. The silence on the other end stretched long before Ray responded. That's a heavy ask, Aaron. You sure about this? Aaron thought about the second phone, the family photos, the stolen funds feeding a life built on lies. I'm sure. How soon can you start? I'll clear my schedule. Fair warning, when you go looking for secrets, you usually find more than you bargained for. I'm counting on it, Aaron said, ending the call. The die was cast. Whatever came next, there was no going back to the comfortable fiction of yesterday. The first thread had been pulled, and Aaron could already see the tapestry of their partnership beginning to unravel. But even as resolve hardened in his chest, a small voice whispered questions he didn't want to answer. What drove a man to build such elaborate deceptions? What need could be so great that it was worth risking everything they built? Aaron would have his answers soon enough, but he suspected that understanding the why wouldn't make the what any easier to bear. Margaret Shunn had transformed Conference Room C into a war room. Financial documents covered every surface bank statements, expense reports, vendor invoices, tax filings. She'd drawn the blinds and posted a maintenance in progress sign on the door. When Aaron entered, she looked up from her laptop with grim determination. I've found more, she said without preamble. Once you know what to look for, the patterns become obvious. Aaron poured himself coffee from the pot she'd brought, noting she'd been here long enough to go through 2 pots already. Walk me through it. Margaret pulled up a spreadsheet on her laptop, projecting it onto the wall screen. Let's start with vendor payments. These companies, Midwest Business Solutions, Cromwell Consulting Group, Executive Services LLC, all receive regular monthly payments ranging from $15,000 to $40,000. For what services? That's just it. The services are vaguely defined: business development, strategic consulting, executive support. But here's the interesting part. She clicked to another screen. All three companies shared the same registered agent. All three were incorporated within 6 months of each other, and all three have only one client, us. Aaron studied the data. Shell companies. Exactly. Money goes out to these vendors, but I can't find any evidence of actual services rendered. No deliverables, no meeting notes, no correspondence beyond invoices. Margaret pulled up another document. But I did find this property tax records for that Oak Park address. The house is owned by Midwest Business Solutions. Victor's shadow company owns his shadow family's house. It gets worse. Margaret's fingers flew across the keyboard. I've traced payments from these shell companies to other accounts. Private school tuition, as I mentioned, but also a country club membership, 2 car leases, medical insurance for 4 people. He's built an entire financial ecosystem to fund his other life. Aaron felt sick. Every dollar stolen was a betrayal, not just of him, but of every employee. Who trusted them? How much total? Over the past 7 years. At least 3 million. Possibly more, if there are accounts I haven't found yet. Christ! Aaron slumped in his chair. How did we miss this? Margaret's expression softened slightly. He was careful. Never took enough at once to trigger concerns. Spread it across multiple budget categories. And frankly, Mr. Blake, you trusted him. We all did. Trust makes us blind to what we don't want to see. A knock on the door made them both freeze. Maintenance, a muffled voice called out. We're fine, Aaron called back. Give us another hour. Footsteps retreated. Margaret lowered her voice. There's something else. I've been cross-referencing the dates of major withdrawals with company events. There's a pattern. Every time we closed a big deal, every time we had a particularly profitable quarter, the payments to shell companies increased. He was rewarding himself, or managing lifestyle inflation. Look at this. She pulled up a photo from social media Catherine Winter's Facebook page, which Margaret had apparently been investigating, posted 3 years ago. Amazing anniversary gift from my wonderful husband. Paris was a dream. The dates coincide with when Mr. Cromwell told us he was at that development conference in Dallas. Aaron stared at the photo. Victor and Catherine. At the Eiffel Tower, looking every inch the happy couple. How many lies had Victor told to maintain this charade? How many business trips that were really family vacations? I've also found something curious about Catherine Winters herself, Margaret continued. She's listed as a marketing consultant, but her LinkedIn shows very little actual client work. Her income appears to come primarily from Cromwell Consulting Group. He's paying her a salary through the shell company? About $120,000 annually. Enough to maintain appearances, but not enough to raise questions about her lifestyle exceeding her apparent means. The sophistication of the deception was staggering. This wasn't a crime of passion or opportunity. This was methodical, calculated fraud sustained over years. What about offshore accounts? Aaron asked. Margaret's expression darkened further. I was hoping you wouldn't ask that. Yes, I found transfers to accounts in the Cayman Islands. Regular transfers, always just under the reporting threshold. Without access to those accounts, I can't tell you how much is there, but based on the pattern, millions. At minimum, Mr. Blake, this isn't just embezzlement anymore. This is money laundering, tax evasion, wire fraud. The FBI could get involved. The IRS certainly will. When this comes out, and it will come out, the damage to the company could be catastrophic. Aaron stood and paced to the window. Below, Chicago went about its business, oblivious to the crisis unfolding in this conference room. Our employees' pension fund, is it protected? For now. But if Victor has access to those accounts too, check it. Check everything. I want to know every account he can access, every dollar at risk. What about the board? The shareholders? We have a fiduciary duty to report this. I know. Erin turned back to face her. But first, we need the full picture. And we need a plan to protect the innocent people who'll be hurt by this. Our employees, our clients. And Victor's other family. Margaret raised an eyebrow. You're concerned about them? Those kids didn't choose a father who lies and steals. Catherine Winters might not even know the truth about where her comfortable life comes from. When this explodes, they'll be victims too. You're more generous than I would be. Erin thought about Emma and James from the photos. Teenagers who probably idolized their successful father. It's not generosity. It's pragmatism. The cleaner we can make this, the less collateral damage. The company survives, our people keep their jobs, and maybe those kids still get to go to college. Margaret nodded slowly. What do you need me to do? Document everything, create backups of all evidence, and quietly start restructuring our financial controls to limit Victor's access without alerting him. Can you do that? I'll need help. Helen Walsh from legal, perhaps? She's trustworthy and knows how to be discreet. Bring her in, but no one else yet. Erin moved toward the door, then paused. Margaret, I need to ask, did you suspect before? Is that why you started collecting evidence months ago? She considered the question carefully. I suspected something. The patterns were too consistent to be random. But a second family? Millions in theft? I thought maybe gambling debts or a drug problem. Something fixable. This, she gestured at the evidence covering the room. This is a man who's been living as someone else entirely. I don't think any of us really knew Victor Cromwell at all. Erin left the conference room feeling like he was walking through a minefield. Every colleague he passed in the hall might be another victim of Victor's deception. Every smile, every casual greeting felt weighted with dramatic irony. Got in his office. His phone buzzed. Victor, back from client meeting. Want to grab lunch? We need to discuss the Singapore timeline. Erin stared at the message. How many times had they shared lunch, talking business, while Victor mentally calculated how much more he could steal? How many strategic discussions had been performances, while Victor's real life waited in Oak Park? Can't today, Erin typed back. Deep in contracts. Rain check? No problem, partner. I'll hold down the fort, partner. The word tasted like ashes. Now, Erin set down his phone and opened his safe, pulling out the mall security footage. Such a simple thing, a little girl seeing her uncle's friend at a shopping center. But like a single thread pulled from a tapestry, it had led to the unraveling of everything. Ray Morrison would start his investigation soon. The financial evidence would build. The legal machinery would begin to turn. And somewhere in Oak Park, a family was going about their Saturday, unaware that their father's carefully constructed world was about to collapse. Erin wondered if Victor felt the walls closing in, if some instinct warned him that his double life was no longer secret, or if he remained confident in his deceptions, still believing he could juggle both worlds indefinitely. Either way, the reckoning was coming. The only question now was how much of what they'd built together would survive the truth. Ray Morrison looked like what he was, a cop who'd seen too much and decided private practice paid better than public service. He sat across from Erin in a booth at Murphy's Diner, a place far enough from the financial district that they wouldn't run into anyone from Blake and Cromwell. Your partner's got quite the setup, Ray said, sliding a manila folder across the scarred formica table. Nice house in Oak Park. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, good school district. Been there 7 years. Erin opened the folder, finding surveillance photos that made his stomach turn. Victor mowing the lawn. Victor barbecuing in the backyard. Victor shooting hoops with James in the driveway. Ordinary suburban moments that were anything but ordinary. The woman, Catherine Winters, thinks she's been married to him for 16 years, Ray continued. Marriage certificate filed in DuPage County under the name Vincent Cromley. That's the identity he uses for the whole Oak Park life. Vincent Cromley. Aaron tested the name. How did he manage that? Not as hard as you'd think. Social Security number issued to a Vincent Cromley, who died in infancy in 1971. Classic identity theft, but done so long ago, the digital trails are minimal. He's been building this identity for decades. Aaron studied a photo of Victor Vincent helping Emma with what looked like a science project. The easy smile, the patient instruction. This wasn't a man playing a role. This was a father. Tell me about the family. Catherine Winters Cromley, 43. Runs a small marketing consultancy from home, mostly website design for local businesses. Grew up in Milwaukee, moved to Chicago for college. Met Vincent at a charity fundraiser in 2008. The kid's Emma's 16. Honor roll at St. Catherine's. Wants to be a doctor. James is 14. Plays basketball. Decent grades. Normal kids. Good kids, from what I can tell. And they have no idea? Ray shrugged. Why would they? Dad goes to work every day at his consulting firm. Travels for business sometimes, but always. Makes the important events. Shows up at parent-teacher conferences. Coaches James's basketball team in the winter. Model father by all accounts. The irony was bitter. Victor had been the father to these children that Aaron had never managed to be to anyone. While Aaron's marriage had crumbled under the weight of work obligations, Victor had somehow balanced two complete lives. There's more, Ray said, signaling the waitress for more coffee. I tailed him for 3 days. His routine is impressive. Leaves the office by 6 most nights. Home to Oak Park by 6:30. Has dinner with the family. Helps with homework. Watches TV with Catherine. Perfectly normal suburban evening. What about weekends? Saturdays are family time. Soccer games, shopping trips, yard work. Sundays he usually claims to golf with you or have client meetings. That's when he catches up on the actual business. The man must never sleep. Aaron flipped through more photos. A birthday party in the backyard. Christmas morning in pajamas. A family vacation to Disney World that Victor had told Aaron was a conference in Orlando. How much do they know about his work? Aaron asked. Catherine believes he runs a mid-size consulting firm specializing in corporate efficiency. Boring enough that she doesn't ask many questions, successful enough to explain their lifestyle. She's mentioned to friends that he doesn't like to bring work home, keeps his business and family life separate. If only she knew how separate. Ray leaned forward. Here's the thing, Aaron. I've investigated a lot of cheating spouses, embezzling, employees. This isn't that. This is something else entirely. Your partner hasn't just built a second life. He's built a completely authentic alternate existence. The question is why? What do you mean? Most guys who do this are running from something. Bad marriage, crushing debt, criminal past. But Victor Cromwell has everything. Successful business, plenty of money, respect in the community. So why create Vincent Cromley? Aaron had been asking himself the same question. Maybe he wanted what he couldn't have as Victor. A family, children, the normal life he always claimed he didn't need. Maybe. Or maybe Victor Cromwell is the invention, and Vincent Cromley is who he really is. The thought chilled Aaron. Which version of his partner was real? The dedicated bachelor who lived for the business, or the suburban father of 2? I need more, Aaron said. Financial information on the Oak Park life. How deep does this go? Ray nodded. Already working on it. But Aaron, you need to think about how this ends. When this comes out, and it always comes out, that family gets destroyed. Those kids lose their father, maybe their home, definitely their stability. Catherine finds out her entire marriage is built on lies. You sure you want to pull that trigger? Aaron thought about the embezzled funds, the stolen money that paid for that house, those school tuitions, that carefully crafted life. He's stealing from our company to fund this. From our employees. I don't have a choice. There's always a choice. You could confront him privately. Give him a chance to come clean. Make restitution. Handle it quietly. You think he'd just admit? Give up one life for the other? Ray smiled grimly. In my experience, guys like this don't give up either life willingly. They'll lie, deny, deflect until the walls literally fall down around them. He's kept this secret for 16 years. That takes a special kind of commitment to deception. After Ray left, Aaron sat in the diner nursing cold coffee, staring at the photos. In one, the whole family wore matching Christmas sweaters, the kind of cheesy tradition Aaron's own family had never managed. Victor's smile seemed genuine, relaxed in a way Aaron had never seen in 20 years of partnership. Phone buzzed. Helen Walsh from Legal. Can we meet? Margaret Chun has briefed me. We need to discuss liability and next steps urgently. Aaron left cash on the table and headed back to the office. As he drove through Oak Park, he found himself detouring past the address Ray had given him. A tidy colonial on a tree-lined street, basketball hoop in the driveway, Cromley on the mailbox. Catherine's car sat in the driveway, a sensible SUV with a St. Catherine's Academy sticker on the bumper. Through the front window, Aaron could see her moving around what must be the kitchen, probably preparing dinner for her family. For Victor's return from another day at his successful consulting firm, how many evenings had played out exactly like this? Victor leaving Aaron at the office, claiming he needed to hit the gym or meet a client, then driving to this house where a completely different life awaited. The logistics alone were staggering. The emotional compartmentalization was almost incomprehensible. Aaron's phone rang. Victor. Hey, partner. You missed a hell of a lunch meeting. The Koreans are ready to move forward on the Seoul project. Partner. There was that word again, loaded with 20 years of trust now revealed as illusion. That's great, Aaron managed. Good work. You sound off. Everything okay? For a moment, Aaron wanted to confront him right then. To say, I know about Catherine, about Emma and James, about Vincent Cromley and the house in Oak Park. But Ray was right. Victor would just deny and deflect. They needed more evidence, an airtight case. Just tired. Long week. Tell me about it. Hey, I might need to leave early tonight. Client dinner. Another lie, smooth as silk. Aaron could picture it. Victor would leave the office at 5:30, drive to Oak Park, have dinner with his family. Maybe help James with algebra homework. Watch the news with Catherine. Live his real life while his partner sat alone in the office, wondering how many lies he'd swallowed over the years. No problem, Aaron said. Family first, right? There was. Pause. You know me, Aaron. Business is my family. After they hung up, Aaron sat in his car outside Victor's house for another moment. Somewhere behind those walls were two teenagers who would soon learn their father was a fraud. A woman who would discover her marriage was invalid. A family that would shatter because one man decided he could have it all, no matter who paid the price. Aaron drove away, leaving the suburban dream intact for now, but not for much longer. The truth had a way of surfacing, like bodies in a lake. And when it did, Vincent Cromley would disappear as suddenly as he'd been created, leaving only the wreckage of two lives that should never have intersected. Suburban house receded in his rearview mirror, but the image lingered, a perfect American home built on a foundation of lies, paid for with stolen money, sheltering a family that didn't know they were living in a house of cards. Soon enough, the wind would blow. Helen Walsh commanded the conference room like a general preparing for war. The corporate lawyer had traded her usual polished demeanor for rolled sleeves and reading glasses pushed high on her head. Financial documents covered every surface, and she'd brought in two junior associates who worked silently at laptops, tracing digital breadcrumbs through offshore havens. We found 12 accounts so far, Helen announced as Aaron and Margaret entered. Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Luxembourg, all opened under shell company names, all receiving regular transfers from the vendor accounts Margaret identified. Aaron felt the weight of each revelation. How much? Conservative estimate? 8.7 million. But that's just what we can trace. The Swiss accounts are particularly opaque, and there may be others we haven't found yet. Margaret pulled up her own analysis on the screen. I've mapped the transfer patterns. Look at this. Every major company milestone corresponds to increased offshore activity. When we landed the Detroit development project, $400,000 moved offshore within a month. The Singapore expansion triggered nearly $1 million in transfers. He was treating our success as his personal ATM, Aaron said bitterly. It's more sophisticated than that, Helen interjected. This isn't crime of opportunity. This is a long-term systematic wealth extraction plan. The way these accounts are structured, layered through multiple jurisdictions, he had help. Professional help. One of the junior associates looked up. We found something else. A trust in the Cook Islands. Beneficiaries listed as Emma and James Cromley, with Catherine Winters Cromley as trustee until they reached 25. Aaron sank into a chair. Victor hadn't just stolen for his present. Stolen for his children's future. College funds built on embezzled money. Trust funds created from corporate theft. There's more, Helen continued. I've been analyzing the partnership agreement. The dissolution clauses, specifically. If Victor is removed for cause, which fraud? Certainly qualifies, as he forfeits all equity in the company. But here's the catch. He's been slowly transferring his ownership stakes to offshore entities. On paper, Victor Cromwell only owns about 30% of what he should. He's been planning his exit, Aaron realized. This isn't just theft. It's an escape plan. Margaret pulled up travel records. Look at this. He's been taking client trips to Costa Rica 4 times in the last 2 years. Always alone, always paying cash for incidentals. Costa Rica doesn't have an extradition treaty with the U.S. for financial crimes, Helen noted, and I bet those trips weren't about clients. The pieces fell into place with nauseating clarity. Property in Costa Rica. Millions in offshore accounts. A family prepared to relocate. Victor wasn't just living a double life. He was preparing to shed his American existence entirely. When? Aaron asked. When was he planning to run? Margaret cross-referenced dates. If the pattern holds, he's accelerated transfers recently. The last 3 months show almost 2 million moved offshore. At this rate, he's close, Helen finished. Weeks, maybe a month or 2 at most. Aaron stood, pacing, to the window. 20 years of building something together, and Victor had spent at least the last decade planning to destroy it. The pension fund. Tell me he can't touch the pension fund. Protected, Helen assured him. Different trust structure requires multiple signatures. But Aaron, we need to move fast. Every day we wait, more money disappears. And if he realizes we're onto him, he'll run immediately. With $8 million and a family that doesn't know they're accomplices to fraud, Aaron's phone buzzed. Victor, with painful irony, reviewing Q3 projections. We're going to have a record quarter, partner. Time to celebrate soon. Record quarter. More success to pillage. More trust to betray. What are our options? Aaron asked Helen. We can file charges immediately. FBI, IRS, state prosecutors. This crosses multiple jurisdictions. But the moment we do, it goes public. Media circus, client panic, stock price collapse if we were publicly traded. The company might not survive. Option 2, confront him privately. Try to negotiate restitution. Get him to return what he can in exchange for. What? Letting him walk away? The board would crucify us. And there's no guarantee. He wouldn't just run the moment we confront him. Margaret had been quietly working at her laptop. There might be a third option. I've been modeling scenarios. If we can freeze the offshore accounts, claim them as stolen assets, we might recover most of the money. But we'd need to move simultaneously on multiple fronts. Legal injunctions, asset freezes, criminal charges all filed within hours of each other. A coordinated strike, Helen mused. It could work, but we'd need international cooperation. The Cayman authorities, Swiss banking regulators, none of them move quickly. How long to prepare? 2 weeks minimum, maybe 3. And that's if everything goes perfectly. Aaron calculated risks. 3 weeks of pretending everything was normal. 3 weeks of sitting across from Victor in meetings, knowing what he knew. 3 weeks for Victor to sense something wrong and disappear with millions. There's another problem, one of the junior associates said hesitantly. The Oak Park property. It's titled to Catherine Winters Cromley, not Victor. Legally, she owns it. If she's genuinely ignorant of the fraud, she keeps the house, Helen confirmed. Courts won't seize assets from an innocent spouse, especially with minor children involved. Same with any accounts solely in her name. Aaron thought about the photos Ray had shown him. The family home, center of an entire life built on lies. At least Catherine and the children might keep their roof, even if they lost everything else, their father, their husband, their sense of reality. Do it, Aaron decided. Start preparing everything. International asset freezes, criminal charges, civil recovery suits, the full arsenal, but absolute secrecy until we move. What about the board? Helen asked. We have disclosure obligations. I'll handle the board. Quietly brief the chairman, maybe 1 or 2 others. But no general announcement till we're ready to strike. Margaret started gathering documents. I'll create forensic backups of everything. If he tries to destroy evidence, he won't get the chance. Aaron's voice carried 20 years of betrayed trust crystallized into determination. Helen, I want security protocols changed. Limit his system access without making it obvious. Can I do that? I'll make some calls. Blame it on cybersecurity upgrades. As the lawyers and accountants dispersed to their tasks, Aaron remained alone, in the conference room surrounded by evidence of his partner's betrayal. $8.7 million. Maybe more. Enough to destroy the company if not recovered. Enough to fund a comfortable life in Costa Rica. For a family living under assumed names, he picked up a bank statement from the Cayman Islands account. The deposits were methodical, regular, just underreporting thresholds. This wasn't desperation or addiction driving Victor. This was cold calculation, a man who looked at 20 years of partnership and saw only opportunity for theft. Aaron's phone rang. Sarah. Hey, just wanted to thank you again for watching Lily last week. She hasn't stopped talking about visiting Uncle Aaron's big office. My pleasure. How's she doing? Great, although she keeps insisting she was right about seeing your partner at the mall. Kids and their certainty, right? Right. Aaron looked at the financial documents spread before him. Sarah, give her a hug from me. Tell her she did good. Really good. Okay? Aaron, you sound strange. Is everything all right? It will be. Soon, I promise. After ending the call, Aaron walked to his office window. Somewhere out there, Victor was living his carefully balanced existence. Corporate executive by day, suburban father by night. Moving millions offshore while helping his son with algebra. Planning his escape while planning Emma's college visits. The Cayman Islands bank statement crinkled in Aaron's hand. In the margins, someone probably, Victor had penciled calculations, interest rates, compound growth, the mathematics of a future built on betrayal. 3 weeks. That's all the time Victor had left in his constructed reality. 3 weeks before Vincent Cromley vanished forever, before the suburban house became a crime scene, Before two teenagers learned their college funds were built on stolen dreams, Aaron smoothed out the statement and locked it in his safe with the rest of the evidence. Somewhere in Costa Rica, a property waited empty for a family that didn't know they were fugitives in waiting. But if Aaron had anything to say about it, that house would remain as empty as Victor's promises. The hidden fortune would be hidden, no more. And when the walls finally came down, Aaron would make sure the collapse buried only the man who'd built them, not the innocent people he'd dragged into his elaborate deception. Justice might be delayed, but it would not be denied. 8.7 million reasons guaranteed that. Ray Morrison's second report arrived on a Tuesday morning that felt like any other, except for the weight of secrets Aaron now carried. The private investigator had outdone himself, delivering a dossier that read like a novel no one would believe. Vincent Cromley has a LinkedIn profile, Ray said, sliding papers across Aaron's desk. Complete work history, references, even recommendations from satisfied clients. He's built an entire professional existence that parallels Victor Cromwell's, but never intersects. Aaron studied the profile. Vincent Cromley, principal consultant at Cromley Business Solutions. 20 years of experience. Specialties in corporate efficiency and strategic planning. The photo was Victor, but somehow different, more relaxed. Wearing glasses Aaron had never seen, smiling in a way that reached his eyes. The glasses are a nice touch, Aaron noted. Creates visual distinction, Clark Kent syndrome. You'd be surprised how much glasses and a different hairstyle can change perception. Ray pulled out another document. Here's where it gets interesting. I tracked down some of these client references. They're real people, but they all have something in common. They're all connected to the shell companies Margaret found. He's recommending himself to himself? Circular authentication. Each fake entity validates the others. It's brilliant, really. If Catherine ever got curious and checked his references, she'd find real phone numbers, real email addresses, all leading back to Victor's controlled entities. Aaron felt a grudging admiration mixed with his disgust. The complexity of the deception was staggering. What about the Costa Rica property? Ray's expression darkened. Found it. Nice place in Tamarindo, beachfront, titled to a Costa Rican corporation. Called Vida Nueva LLC, New Life. Not subtle, our friend Victor. When did he buy it? 3 years ago. But here's the kicker. There's construction permits filed 6 months ago. He's building a guest house. Plans show 4 bedrooms. A family compound. Aaron absorbed this. 3 years of planning. Not a desperate escape, but a methodical relocation strategy. Has Catherine been there? Once, according to passport records. Family vacation 2 years ago. Kids too. Bet they loved it. Bet they had no idea Daddy was house shopping for their new life. The intercom buzzed. Margaret's voice. Mr. Cromwell is here for your 10 o'clock. Aaron's pulse quickened. The weekly partner meeting. Another performance in their elaborate dance of deception. Send him in. Ray gathered his papers quickly. Back exit? Through the private conference room. Ray the timeline? Based on the construction schedule and financial patterns? 6 weeks maximum. Probably less. Victor entered as Ray slipped out. All smooth confidence and familiar energy. Morning, partner. Beautiful day. We should be golfing instead of stuck in this office. Aaron studied his partner of 20 years, looking for Vincent Cromley beneath the surface. Were those reading glasses tucked in his shirt pocket? Was his hair styled slightly differently? Or was Aaron seeing shadows where none existed? Quarterly. Reviews wait for no man, Aaron replied, proud of how normal his voice sounded. They settled into their usual positions. Victor spreading out financial projections with practiced ease. The Singapore team sent updated numbers. We're looking at 40% growth potential in the Asian markets. I think it's time to make a serious play. Aaron watched Victor's hands as he gestured through the presentation. No wedding ring. Never had been. But Ray had photographed him wearing one in Oak Park. Props for different stages, different audiences. Aggressive expansion, Aaron noted. That'll require significant capital investment, which we have, thanks to our record quarters. I ran the numbers. We could commit $8 million to Asian expansion and still maintain healthy reserves. $8 million. Almost exactly what he'd stolen. Aaron wondered if Victor chose that number deliberately, some subconscious tell, or if it was cosmic. Irony. I'll need to see detailed projections, Aaron said carefully. Risk assessments. Exit strategies if things go south. Victor laughed. When did you become so cautious? 20 years ago, you'd have been on a plane to Singapore already. 20 years ago, I trusted more easily. Something flickered in Victor's eyes. Meaning? Meaning we have 300 employees depending on us now. Families who need us to be smart, not just ambitious. Victor leaned back, studying Aaron with an expression that might have been concern or calculation. You've been different lately, distant. Is everything okay? Sarah's health? The personal touch, the caring partner. How many times had Victor expressed concern while simultaneously robbing them blind? Sarah's fine. Just thinking about legacy lately. What we're building. What it all means. Heavy thoughts for a Tuesday morning. Maybe. Tell me, Victor, do you ever think about what comes next? After Blake and Cromwell? Victor's smile didn't waver, but his eyes sharpened. I told you, this company is my life. No wife, no kids, no distractions. Why would I think about after? The lie came so easily, so naturally. Aaron wondered if Victor even registered it as deception anymore, or if he'd compartmentalized so completely that Vincent Cromley simply ceased to exist in this office. Everyone needs an exit strategy, Aaron pressed. What would you do if you couldn't do this anymore? Hypothetically? Victor gathered his papers, suddenly busy. I don't know. Travel, maybe. Somewhere warm. Costa Rica's nice, I hear. There it was. The tell, the slight emphasis on here, the careful distance from personal experience. Catherine and the kids had loved their Costa Rica vacation, but Victor Cromwell had never been there. Only Vincent Cromley had. Never been myself, Aaron lied in return, watching for reaction. You should go sometime. Beautiful beaches. Good investment opportunities too, actually. Real estate's booming. After Victor left, Aaron sat alone in his office, parsing every word of their conversation. 6 weeks, Ray had said. Maybe less. Victor was already seeding his exit, planting suggestions about Costa Rica, testing Aaron's suspicions. The desk phone rang. Helen Walsh, we have a problem. IT found something during the security upgrade. Aaron's stomach dropped. What kind of something? Keystroke logging software on your computer. Margaret's too. Someone's been monitoring your activities. Victor knew. Of course he knew. A man who'd maintained 2 complete identities for 16 years didn't survive on luck alone. He had contingencies, surveillance, early warning systems. How long? At least 2 weeks, maybe longer. Aaron, if he knows. We're investigating. He'll run. Tonight, maybe sooner. Aaron stood, mind racing. Alert the team. We move now, ready or not. We're not ready. The international freezes aren't in place. The criminal complaints need more documentation. Then we do what we can with what we have. Helen, he's probably already booking flights. We're out of time. Aaron's cell phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Beautiful family photo from Costa Rica. The kids have grown so much. A friend attached was a picture Catherine, Emma, and James on a beach, laughing in the sunset. Recent, based on the kids' ages. Victor wasn't in the photo, but his message was clear. I know you know, and I'm already ahead of you. Aaron forwarded. The message to Ray and Helen, then called building security. Victor Cromwell is not to leave the building. Emergency board matter. Detain him politely, but firmly. Sir, Mr. Cromwell just left. Said he had a family emergency. About 15 minutes ago. 15 minutes. While they'd been discussing Singapore expansion and exit strategies, Victor had already been executing his own. Aaron grabbed his jacket, racing for the elevator. In the parking garage, Victor's assigned space sat empty. The Porsche he'd driven. For 5 years, another prop in the Victor Cromwell performance, abandoned like the role itself. His phone rang. Ray Morrison. Just got your forward. I'm heading to the Oak Park house now. He's running. Maybe. Or maybe he's choosing which life to save. Men like this, when cornered, they don't always run. Sometimes they double down on the life that matters most. Aaron climbed into his car. Decision made. I'm going to Oak Park. Have Helen contact the FBI, local police, everyone. And Ray, get to that house. Those kids don't deserve to watch their father arrested in front of them. On it, Aaron? Be careful. Desperate men do desperate things. As Aaron sped toward Oak Park, he thought about 20 years of partnership dissolving in real time. Somewhere ahead, Victor was making choices that would shatter every life he'd built. The sophisticated architect of deception, reduced to a common fugitive, racing against time and justice. The game was over. The question now was how many people would be destroyed when the final piece fell. The Blake and Cromwell boardroom had hosted million-dollar deals and partnership celebrations, but never a trap. Aaron stood at the head of the mahogany table, watching security cameras on his phone as Victor's Porsche pulled into the garage. He'd taken the bait. Aaron's urgent text about an emergency board meeting had overcome his flight instinct. Helen, Walsh sat to Aaron's right, a digital recorder hidden beneath legal papers. Ray Morrison waited in the adjacent conference room with 2 FBI agents. Margaret Shunn had locked down all financial systems remotely. The net was in place. Victor entered at 3:47 p.m., still wearing his perfect executive costume, but with something wild in his eyes. He paused at the threshold, sensing the change in atmosphere. Quite the emergency, he said carefully. Where's the board? Sit down, Victor. Aaron's voice carried 20 years of partnership transformed into stone. Or should I call you Vincent? The transformation was instantaneous. Victor's shoulders dropped. His face aged 10 years in 10 seconds. He moved to his usual chair with the resignation of a man who'd always known this day would come. How long have you known? Does it matter? Aaron slid a folder across the table. Mall security footage. Catherine's Facebook page. Property records. For Costa Rica. Cayman Islands bank statements. It's all here. Victor opened the folder slowly, examining each piece of evidence like an art collector admiring his work one last time. Lily. It was Lily at the mall, wasn't it? I knew I should have handled that differently. A 10-year-old girl saw through 20 years of lies. How does that feel? Victor's laugh was bitter, like poetry. The perfect crime undone by a child's honesty. He looked up, meeting Aaron's eyes for the first time. You want to know why? I want to know everything. Start with why you stole $8.7 million from our company. From me, 8.7? That's all you found? Victor shook his head. Aaron, always thinking too small. Helen activated the recorder openly now, placing it between them. Mr. Cromwell, you should know you're being recorded. You have the right to an attorney. I waive it. All of it? You want a confession? Fine, but Aaron deserves the truth. The whole truth. Victor leaned back, suddenly looking exhausted. It started before Blake and Cromwell. I met Catherine in 2006, 2 years before we founded the company. I was nobody then, struggling consultant, drowning in student loans. But she saw something in me. We fell in love. got married, had Emma. Aaron's mind reeled. You were already married when we met? Vincent Cromley was married. Victor Cromwell was the identity I created for business. Clean slate, no baggage, no complications. You needed a partner who could live for the company, so I gave you one. You lied from day one. I compartmentalized. Vincent was the husband and father. Victor was the businessman. For a while, it worked. But then the company exploded. 60-hour weeks became 80. You needed Victor Cromwell constantly, and Vincent's family needed him too. Margaret spoke for the first time. So you stole to fund your double life? I stole because I earned it. Victor's voice hardened. Every late night, every weekend, every holiday I worked while pretending I had no one waiting at home, I earned that money. You got your tireless partner, Aaron. I just made sure I got paid for both roles. That's your justification? You earned the right to embezzle? You want to talk about what's fair? Victor leaned forward. You went home to family dinners. I pretended didn't exist for me. You coached Little League while I claimed to hate children. You had relationships fail because of work, but at least you could try. I couldn't even admit I had a wife. You chose that lie. No one forced you, didn't they? Remember our first investor meeting? Davidson Partners? They loved that I was single. Dedicated, no distractions. Said it right to our faces. Thank God you don't have kids to slow you down. That deal made us, Aaron. Built everything. Would they have invested if they knew about Catherine and Emma? Aaron wanted to say yes, but doubt crept in. Those early days had been brutal, requiring total commitment. Would he have partnered with a man who had a young family? Or would he have chosen someone else, someone without divided loyalties? It doesn't justify theft, fraud, 20 years of deception. No, Victor agreed. It doesn't. But it explains it. Every milestone the company hit, I missed one at home. Emma's first steps, I was in Detroit closing a deal. James's birth, I was in that Singapore conference that launched our Asian expansion. Catherine's father's funeral, I told her I was. Traveling and sent flowers to my own father-in-law's service. The pain in his voice seemed genuine, but Aaron had learned not to trust anything about Victor's emotions. So you built a financial escape plan. Costa Rica. I built a future. Somewhere I could stop being two people. Where my kids could have their father full-time. Where Catherine could finally stop pretending she understood why her successful husband's business consumed him so completely. Helen interjected. The construction permits show you've been planning this for years. 3 years. Since Jane started asking why Dad missed so many games. Since Emma stopped inviting me to school events because she knew I'd say no. Since Catherine started therapy for what she thought was my workaholic nature, but was really my double existence. When were you planning to run? 6 weeks? Emma graduates in June. I couldn't miss that. After 20 years of missing everything, I was going to be there for her graduation. Then we'd take a family vacation to Costa Rica and never come back. With our money. With my retirement fund. Self-allocated, I admit. But Aaron, think about it. What's the alternative? Work myself to death maintaining this charade? Watch my kids grow up in glimpses? Let Catherine waste her life on a husband who's only half there. Aaron stood, unable to sit still any longer. You had choices. You could have told me the truth. We could have restructured your role, found balance. Could we? Really? The great Victor Cromwell, suddenly unavailable nights and weekends? Suddenly. Human? The board would have revolted. Our culture would have shifted. Everything we built depended on the myth of the tireless partners. So you chose to steal instead? I chose my family. Every transfer to those offshore accounts was a promise to them that someday Daddy would choose them over the next deal, the next meeting, the next quarter's profits. Ray Morrison entered quietly, catching Aaron's eye. The FBI agents were in position. It was time. "Victor Vincent, whoever you are," Aaron said quietly, "it's over. The FBI is here. The accounts are frozen. Costa Rica was a dream that's not happening." Victor nodded slowly. "I know. Knew it the moment Lily saw me at the mall. You can't maintain a lie once a child sees through it." He looked at the recorder. "I, Victor Cromwell, also known as Vincent Cromley, confessed to embezzling funds from Blake and Cromwell Enterprises over a period of 7 years. I acted alone. My family had no knowledge of my crimes." "Victor, I need you to do something for me, Aaron. Not for Victor Cromwell. He was never real anyway. For the man who built this company with you, who shared your dreams even while living his own nightmare. Take care of them. Catherine, Emma, James. They're innocent. The house is in Catherine's name legally. Let them keep it. Let the kids finish school. That's not my decision. Then make it your recommendation. 20 years, Aaron. Give me that." The FBI agents entered, professional and quick. Victor stood calmly, offering his wrists for the handcuffs. As they led him toward the door, he paused. "Tell Emma, I'm sorry, I'll miss her graduation. Tell James his jump shot's getting better. Tell Catherine." His voice broke. "Tell her Vincent loved her." Victor was the lie, but Vincent's love was real. After they left, Aaron stood in the empty boardroom, surrounded by the debris of deception. Helen gathered the evidence, the recorder, the confession that would protect the company while destroying a family. Margaret began the process of damage control, protecting jobs and pensions from one man's elaborate fraud. But Aaron remained at the window, staring out at the city where Victor Cromwell had never really existed, and Vincent Cromley had lived a stolen life funded by betrayal. Somewhere in Oak Park, a family was about to learn their father was a fiction, their security an illusion, their future evaporated. The recorder had captured Victor's confession, but it couldn't capture the deeper tragedy, a man so desperate to be two people that he ended up being no one at all. The math was simple. 8.7 million stolen, one man arrested, one company saved, but the human cost was incalculable. 20 years of partnership dissolved in an afternoon. 2 teenagers who would never trust easily again. A woman whose marriage was invalid, but whose pain was all too real. Aaron picked up his phone to call Ray, to begin the delicate process of notification and damage control. But first, he pulled Lily's pink ribbon from his pocket, still thereafter. All these weeks thought such a small thing to end such a large deception. A child's innocent observation that brought down an empire of lies. He hoped someday Lily would understand that her honesty hadn't destroyed a family. It had ended a fiction that was already destroying them all. The truth, as painful as it was still better than the most beautiful lie. The emergency all-hands meeting convened at 8 a.m. sharp the following Monday. 300 employees filled the main conference hall, whispers rippling through the crowd like wind through wheat. Aaron stood at the podium, looking out at faces that ranged from curious to concerned to outright fearful. "By now, you've heard rumors," he began, his voice carrying the weight of recent revelations. "I'm here to give you facts. Last Thursday, Victor Cromwell was arrested for embezzlement and fraud against our company." The whispers exploded into gasps, exclamations, a chaos of disbelief. Aaron raised his hand for silence. "I know this is shocking. Victor was my partner for 20 years, and many of you have worked with him for nearly as long. The betrayal we feel is real and valid. But I need you to hear this clearly. Your jobs are safe. Your pensions are protected. Blake and Cromwell will survive this." Margaret Chun stepped forward with financial projections on the screen behind them. "We've recovered 60% of the stolen funds already through frozen accounts. Insurance will cover most of the remainder. No client money was touched. No employee benefits were compromised. The damage was contained to company profits, which we can absorb. What about our contracts? Someone called out. Our reputation? Helen Walsh took the microphone. All contracts remain valid and enforceable. We've been in contact with every major client. They're standing by us. If anything, our transparent handling of this crisis has reinforced their trust. Erin returned to the podium. I won't lie to you, the next few months will be challenging. Media attention, legal proceedings, restructuring. But we built this company on a foundation stronger than any one person, even a founding partner. We will emerge from this more resilient, more transparent, and more united. Questions flew from the crowd. Erin answered what he could, deflected what he couldn't, always returning to the core message. The company would survive. Jobs were secure. The future remained bright. After the meeting, Aaron retreated to his office to find Ray Morrison waiting. How'd they take it? Ray asked. Shocked but steady. They're good people. Aaron collapsed into his chair. How's the other situation? Ray's expression softened. I was there when the FBI notified Catherine. It was rough. She didn't believe it at first. Kept insisting there was a mistake, that Vincent was at a business meeting, that he'd explain. Everything? The kids? Emma held it together until they showed her the photos of Victor at company events. Then she just crumbled. James went the other way, angry, throwing things, screaming about lies. Can't blame either of them. Erin felt the weight of collateral damage. Innocents caught in Victor's web. What's their situation? Helen was right. The house is in Catherine's name, purchased before most of the embezzlement began. They can keep it. But everything else is frozen pending investigation. Catherine's consulting business was partially funded by shell company money, so that's gone. Kids' college funds are tainted. They're not destitute, but they're definitely struggling. Erin made a decision it would have seemed impossible a week ago. Set up a meeting. Discreet location. I want to talk to Catherine. You sure that's wise? Lawyers would say. I know what lawyers would say. Set it up anyway. 3 days later, Erin sat in a quiet coffee shop in Evanston, far from both the financial district and Oak Park. Catherine Winters entered 10 minutes late, as if she'd circled the block, debating whether to come at all. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. The polished suburban mother from surveillance photos had been replaced by a woman navigating grief, betrayal, and practical crisis simultaneously. I didn't know, were her first words as she sat down. I need you to believe that. 20 years, and I didn't know. I believe you, Erin said simply. Victor Vincent was very good at deception. 16 years of marriage that wasn't legal. 2 children who carry a name that belongs to no one. She laughed bitterly. Do you know what Emma asked me? She wanted to know if anything about her father was real. I couldn't answer because I don't know myself. His feelings for you and the children seemed genuine. In his confession, he insisted you knew nothing, that he did it all for you. Don't. Catherine's voice turned sharp. Don't you dare make it noble? He stole. He lied. He let me build a life on foundations of sand. He let our children believe in a father who didn't exist. You're right. I'm sorry. They sat in awkward silence, the gulf between them filled with 20 years of unintended consequences. Why did you want to meet? Catherine finally asked. To apologize, to offer help, to try to salvage something from this wreckage. Erin pulled out a folder. I've discussed this with our board. We're prepared to create an educational trust for Emma and James, not charity. Victor was a founder, and his children shouldn't suffer for his crimes. Full college tuition, living expenses, administered independently. Catherine stared at the papers. Why would you do this? Because a 10-year-old girl named Lily saw through the lies and had the courage to speak up. Because Emma and James are the same age and deserve the same chance at a future. Because 20 years of partnership, even built on deception, created value that your children shouldn't be denied. The media will crucify you. Helping the embezzler's family? Let them. I've learned recently that public perception and private truth rarely align anyway. Catherine's composure finally cracked. Tears flowed as she clutched the papers. Thank you. I don't deserve this kindness, but my children do. They're so angry, so lost. James won't even say Victor's name. Emma's stopped eating. They need to. Know something good can come from this nightmare. There's more, Aaron said gently. We're restructuring the company. Employee ownership, profit sharing, transparency at every level. Victor's shares will be distributed among the people who helped build this company. In a way, his crime is funding a more equitable future. Poetic justice, practical justice. The company survives, strengthened. Your children get educated. Our employees get ownership. Even Victor, in federal prison, might find some peace knowing his elaborate deception led to something better. Catherine wiped her eyes. Can I ask you something? In 20 years of partnership, did you ever suspect? Aaron considered the question. No, maybe I should have. The weekend excuses, the personal calls he took privately, the apartment he never invited me to. But I trusted him. We all see what we expect to see. I've been replaying 16 years of marriage, looking for signs. They were everywhere, but I explained them all away. Business trips that aligned with school breaks, the way he sometimes called me Catherine instead of Kate, the reading glasses he only wore at home. She shook her head. Love makes us blind to what we don't want to see. What will you do now? Survive. Work real work this time, not funded by fraud. Raise my children to value truth above comfort. Maybe move eventually, start fresh somewhere. She stood to leave, then paused. Mr. Blake, can I tell the children about this? The education trust? They need hope right now. Of course. And Catherine? If you need references for work, recommendations, connections, don't let pride stop you from asking. You're victims too in this. After she left, Aaron sat alone in the coffee shop, watching normal people living normal lives. The barista called, out orders. Students typed on laptops. A couple shared a muffin. Simple, honest interactions that Victor had traded for elaborate deception. His phone buzzed. Margaret, board meeting in an hour. Restructuring proposal ready for review. Aaron headed back to the office, where the work of rebuilding waited. In the lobby, he noticed the company name, Blake and Cromwell Enterprise, is etched in marble. Soon, it would just be Blake Enterprises, or perhaps something entirely new. A name that reflected employee ownership, shared success, collective trust. The elevator carried him up to the executive floor, past the office that had been Victor's, now stripped bare and waiting for new purpose. Margaret had suggested converting it to an employee wellness center yoga classes, meditation space, a place for the mental health that corporate culture often ignored. From deception to wellness, Aaron had mused. Victor would hate the irony. Victor's gone, Margaret had replied firmly. This is about us now. The people who remain. In the conference room, the senior staff assembled for the first post-Victor strategy session. Charts showed recovery projections, client retention rates, employee morale metrics. The company would survive wounded, but wiser, smaller, but stronger. Implementation. Timeline for employee ownership? Aaron asked. 6 months to full transition, Helen reported. Legal framework is complex, but achievable. We'll be one of the largest employee-owned firms in the Midwest. Media strategy? Continuing transparency, the communications director said. We're the corporate scandal with a conscience. Taking care of the criminal's family, protecting employee assets, restructuring for equity. It's playing well. It's not a strategy, Aaron corrected. It's just the right thing to do. The meeting continued. building a future on the ruins of deception. Aaron found himself energized by the possibilities. Without Victor's shadow presence, new voices emerged. Junior staff suggested innovations that would have been dismissed before. The company culture, built on the myth of tireless founding partners, evolved toward something more sustainable, more human. As sunset painted the conference room golden, Aaron called the meeting to close. One last thing. I've been thinking about Lily, my niece, the one who saw Victor at the mall. I want to create an annual integrity award in her name for the employee who demonstrates exceptional honesty, especially when it's difficult. Unanimous approval, even some applause. From the mouth of babes, truth that transformed a company. Later, alone in his office, Aaron pulled out the emergency meeting minutes the assistant had prepared. Every word documented, every decision recorded. Transparency is policy now, not afterthought. He thought about Victor in federal custody, wondering if his former partner followed the news. If he knew about the education trust, the employee ownership, the integrity award named for the child who'd ended his charade. Maybe someday, years from now, they'd speak again. After the anger cooled, after the wounds scarred over, after Emma and James graduated college on Blake Enterprises' dime, maybe Victor would explain more, or maybe explanations would no longer matter. For now, Aaron had a company to rebuild, employees to protect, and a promise to keep to a woman whose marriage was a mirage, but whose children deserved truth and opportunity. In equal measure, the damage was controlled. The future, uncertain but honest, stretched ahead. 6 months after Victor Cromwell became federal inmate number 47,832, Blake Enterprises held its first all-employee ownership meeting. The auditorium buzzed with 300 new co-owners, each holding documents that represented their stake in the company they'd helped build. Aaron stood before them, noting how different this felt from that terrible morning when he'd announced Victor's arrest. Fear had been replaced by pride. Uncertainty had given way to collective purpose. Today, we're not just employees, he began. We're owners. Every contract we sign, every project we complete, every innovation we pursue, we share in its success. This company is no longer about two partners. It's about all of us. Margaret Chun, now Chief Financial Officer and 5% owner, presented the numbers. Recovery was complete. The embezzled funds, insurance payments, and Victor's forfeited equity had been redistributed. The company was leaner but healthier, like a patient who'd survived surgery to remove a tumor. Profit sharing begins immediately, Margaret announced to sustained applause. Transparency reports will be published monthly. Any owner can review any financial document. The era of secret accounts and hidden transactions is over. After the meeting, Aaron walked the halls of the transformed company. Victor's old office had indeed become a wellness center. Where deals had been structured in shadow, employees now practiced yoga in sunlight. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. His phone buzzed. Catherine Winters. Emma got into Northwestern. Her text read, "Pre-med. The trust you established made it possible. She wanted me to thank you." Aaron smiled, remembering the angry teenager from Ray's surveillance photos. From deception's wreckage, a future doctor was emerging. He typed back, "Tell her congratulations. Her father would be proud." Which one? Catherine's response came quickly, tinged with the bitter humor that had become her coping mechanism. The one who loved her, whatever name he used. In his office, Aaron found Ray Morrison waiting with a final report. The private investigator had stayed on, helping track down the last hidden accounts, ensuring no more surprises lurked in offshore. Shadows. That's the last of it, Ray said, sliding a folder across the desk. Account in Singapore, closed and recovered. Total recovery, 92% of stolen funds. And the other 8%? Cost of the lesson. Some expensive education we all got. Aaron opened the folder, scanning the final tallies. What happened to the Costa Rica property? Sold at auction. Proceeds went to victim restitution. Some tech executive bought it, has no idea he's living in a criminal's unrealized dream. They sat in comfortable silence, two men who'd navigated a crisis together and emerged with mutual respect. I'm curious, Ray said eventually. Do you ever think about visiting him? Federal prison in Terre Haute isn't that far. Aaron had thought about it many times. What would I say? 20 years of partnership, and I never really knew him. Or maybe I knew Victor Cromwell perfectly. It was Vincent Cromley I never met. Maybe that's what you'd say. Maybe he needs to hear it. Maybe, someday, when I can look at him without seeing the damage he caused. Ray stood to leave. For what it's worth, I've investigated a lot of corporate criminals. Most are simple greed, pure selfishness. This was different. Wrong, criminal, destructive, but different. He wasn't stealing to get rich. He was stealing to be whole. After Ray left, Aaron turned to face the city through his office window. Chicago sprawled endlessly, keeping its million secrets. But Blake Enterprises had no more secrets. Every transaction transparent, every decision collective, every success shared. A knock on his door. Come in. Sarah entered with Lily in tow. His niece had grown in the months since her mall observation had changed everything. She carried herself with the quiet confidence of a child who'd spoken truth and seen it matter. Lily has something. For you, Sarah said, nudging her daughter forward. The girl handed Aaron a handmade card, decorated with glitter and careful lettering. Thank you for the award in my name, she read aloud, though Aaron could see the words himself. I'm glad I helped stop the lying man. Now everyone at your company can trust each other. Aaron knelt to Lily's level. You did more than stop a lying man, sweetheart. You helped us build something better, something honest. Mom says honesty is hard sometimes. Your mom's right. But you showed us it's worth it. As Sarah and Lily left, Aaron returned to his desk to find an envelope that hadn't been there before. No return address, but he recognized the handwriting. Inside, a single sheet of paper covered in Victor's precise script. Aaron, I know I have no right to contact you. The lawyers would have a fit. But I needed you to know I follow the news. I see what you've done with the company. Employee ownership, the education trust, the integrity award. You built something better from my betrayal. That doesn't excuse what I did, but it helps me sleep at night. The man in cell 47,832 is paying for his crimes. But somewhere, maybe Vincent Cromley can find peace knowing his family is cared for and his deception led to truth. Thank you for that, Grace. Aaron read it twice, then locked it in his safe with the other artifacts of deception. The mall footage, the doctored expense reports, the photos of a double life. History now, evidence of a path the company would never walk again. The sun set over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new tests of the transparent culture they'd built. But tonight, Aaron felt something he hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Blake Enterprises would thrive. Emma would become a doctor. James would find his way. Catherine would rebuild her life on foundations of truth. The employees would share in profits they'd helped create. And somewhere in federal prison, a man who'd been two people might finally learn to be one. From deception's ashes, integrity had bloomed. It wasn't the ending anyone had planned, but it was the one they'd earned. And in the ledger of justice, that was enough. 1 year later, Blake Enterprises celebrated its rebirth with an anniversary gala in the same hotel where Aaron and Victor had first pitched their vision to investors 2 decades before. The ballroom glowed with warm light, filled with employees who were now owners, clients who'd remained loyal through scandal, and families who'd weathered the storm together, Aaron stood at the podium, looking out at faces both familiar and new. Margaret Chun sat at the executive table, her CFO badge gleaming. Hullen Walsh chatted with board members about the latest transparency initiatives. Ray Morrison, now head of corporate security, kept a protective eye on proceedings. And at the table of honor sat Sarah with Lily, the 11-year-old girl whose innocent observation had transformed a company. A year ago, we faced our darkest. Aaron began. Betrayal, theft, the potential collapse of everything we'd built. But from that darkness came light, the light of truth, the power of collective ownership, and the wisdom that sometimes the youngest among us see most clearly. He gestured to Lily, who blushed but sat straighter. Tonight, we present the first annual Lily Blake Integrity Award. This year's recipient exemplified courage in speaking truth when silence would have been easier. Please welcome Catherine Winters. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Catherine rose from the back table. She'd aged gracefully through her trials, carrying herself with the dignity of someone who'd survived deception and chosen truth. Emma and James flanked her, the teenagers looking uncomfortable but proud. Catherine approached the podium slowly, accepting the Crystal Award with hands that barely trembled. "I'm not sure I deserve this," she began, voice carrying across the hushed room. "For 16 years, I lived a lie and never knew it. But when the truth came out, I had a choice: hide in shame or face it with courage. This company, these people, Aaron Blake, they showed me that victims of deception can become champions of truth." She turned to face Aaron. "My children are in college because of your trust. I have a job because your HR director took a chance on someone with a complicated past. We have a future because you chose grace over vengeance. This award belongs to all of you." As Catherine returned to her seat amid warm applause, Aaron noticed James whispering something to Emma. The boy who'd raged at his father's arrest now wore a Blake Enterprises internship badge. The girl who'd stopped eating now radiated health and purpose. Time and truth had begun their healing work. "Before we continue," Aaron said, "I want to share something. This week, I received a letter from a federal prison in Terre Haute. The sender's permission and the board's approval. I'd like to read part of it." He pulled out a single page, Victor's handwriting visible even from a distance. "To the owners of Blake Enterprises," Aaron read, "I'm the man who stole from you, lied to you, betrayed your trust. I'm also the man who helped build what you now own together. That doesn't balance the scales, but it gives me hope that from my worst actions, your best selves emerged. I'm 3 years into a 10-year sentence. Every day, I work in the prison library, teaching financial literacy to other inmates. I tell them my story not as excuse, but as warning. I show them the news articles about Blake Enterprises, about employee ownership and radical transparency. I tell them that honesty isn't just moral, it's practical. That truth builds while lies destroy. That a little girl's courage matters more than a grown man's schemes. I can't undo my crimes, but I can spend my remaining years ensuring others don't repeat them. The man who was Victor Cromwell and Vincent Cromley is gone. The man writing this letter is just Vincent Inmate, teacher, cautionary tale. May your company continue to thrive on the foundation of truth I tried to crack but couldn't break. With respect and remorse, Vincent." Aaron folded the letter carefully. "Forgiveness is personal. Each of you must decide for yourselves. But redemption is possible for all of us. We proved that this year." The evening continued with dinner, dancing, and celebration. Aaron moved through the crowd, greeting employees turned owners, assuring clients of continued excellence, thanking those who'd stood by the company through scandal and transformation. Near the dessert table, he found Lily carefully selecting a chocolate eclair. "Quite a party, Uncle Aaron. You deserve it. None of this happens without you. I just told the truth." "Exactly. You just told the truth. In the business world, that's revolutionary. Lily considered this. Chocolate smudging. Her chin. Mom says Mr. Cromwell went to jail because of me. Does that make me bad? Aaron knelt beside his niece. No, sweetheart. Mr. Cromwell went to jail because he stole and lied. You helped stop him from stealing and lying more. That makes you brave. Will he be okay? The question carried a child's pure concern, unmarred by the anger adults nurture. He's teaching other people not to make his mistakes. So yes, in his way, he'll be okay. Good, Lily declared, then added with 11-year-old wisdom, everyone deserves to be okay, even if they did bad things. Later, as the gala wound down, Aaron found himself on the hotel terrace where 21 years ago he and Victor had shaken hands on their partnership. The city glittered below, unchanged yet completely different in his eyes. Margaret joined him, champagne in hand. Hell of a year, he agreed. Any regrets? Aaron thought about it. 20 years of partnership revealed as performance. Millions stolen, lives disrupted, trust shattered. But also, a company reborn, employees empowered, transparency triumphant, and the next generation learning that truth matters more than profit. No, he said finally, no regrets. Just lessons learned. Inside, the band played on. Lily danced with her mother. Integrity Award winners mingled with reformed executives. And somewhere in Indiana, a former millionaire taught financial ethics to fellow inmates. The circle of consequence and redemption turned on. Aaron raised his glass to the night sky, a silent toast to partnership that was false, consequences that were real, and truth that emerged from the mouths of babes. Blake Enterprises would continue, stronger for its scars. The Winters Cromley children would graduate debt-free. Vincent would serve his time and teach his lessons. And Lily Blake would grow up knowing that her courage, at 10 years old, had changed. Hundreds of lives for the better. In the end, that was the greatest integrity award of all the knowledge that speaking truth, however difficult, however disruptive, was always the right choice. The little girl who'd pointed at the partner and said, "He's cheating," had shown them all the way forward. The wisdom of innocence, preserved in crystal awards and transparent policies, would guide Blake Enterprises for generations to come. And in the annals of corporate history, it would be remembered not as the company that survived a scandal, but as the one that transformed betrayal into belonging, deception into democracy, and a child's honesty into an empire of integrity. "Uncle, Aaron," Lily called from inside. "Are you happy now?" Aaron turned from the city view, seeing his niece framed in the doorway, backlit by the warm glow of celebration. The same question she'd asked in surveillance photos, now directed at him. "Yes, sweetheart," he answered, meaning it completely. "Thanks to you, we all are." The party continued inside, but Aaron lingered a moment longer on the terrace. Somewhere, Victor's ghost haunted these spaces, the eager young consultant with a secret family, the brilliant partner with a hidden life, the desperate thief with an escape plan. But ghosts had no power in a company built on truth. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, in a hotel ballroom where deception once dressed as ambition, honesty danced in a pink party dress, and everyone was exactly who they claimed to be. It was. Aaron reflected as he rejoined the celebration, the most successful merger of all, the union of profit and principle, orchestrated by an 11-year-old girl who simply told the truth, the wisdom of innocence indeed.